Assalamu alaikum and good evening to our read community and viewers who are watching us globally. Welcome to our collaborative event, Human Evolution Through Books Season 2 by Read Pakistan and International Institute of Humanology. I am Javeria Asad, mechanical engineer and social entrepreneur, co-founder of KSA Chapter, former Vice President International Chapter, Read Pakistan, and currently member of a board of trustees of Read Pakistan. For the viewers who have just joined us, I want to give a small rundown of our previous season, which had 4 editions. Our first introductory event was launched on 28 August 2021, in which we introduced science of humanology and its tips and techniques. We invited different humanologists who highlighted the concepts of humanology, and we invited different writers who talked about different books, because books help us to empower ourselves personally and professionally. Our second edition was based on the theme, violence against women. We invited experts, authors, and humanologists to share their point of view and possible adopted solutions to dilute the intensity of this issue. Our third session was planned to highlight women empowerment. And the last, 4th edition, was based on mentoring youth and young adults. Because to make our personal and professional life meaningful, this is important to pursue our careers the way we want. We need to mentor our youth to adopt careers as per their choices and priorities. Season 2 of Human Evolution Through Books is a new batch of incredibly human and interesting topics to be discussed by experts and authors to help us understand human beings a bit better. This first edition in the second season will focus on human beings, integral beings. Now I want to invite my co-host, the gorgeous Jessica J Lockhart. She's a well-known award-winning author and the president and founder of International Institute of Humanology. Jessica, please introduce today's guest with all of us.
Hello, Javeria. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for that very warm introduction. Yes, we are starting the second season of Human Evolution Through Books, and we are very excited to approach a very, very, very unique topic today. We're going to be talking about human beings, which is what we always do, but we're going to focus on a very specific aspect of that. And to do that, we have some wonderful speakers, experts, authors who will be accompanying us today from different places in the world, as is our habit and custom. The first person that I would like to introduce is somebody that I've been collaborating with for quite a while. He is connecting all the way from India, and his name is Aalok Sood. He is a retired colonel, national and regional head Asia Pacific Directive Communication Psychology. He completed a system of human psychology. He is an empower in leadership and a fire walk instructor. Aalok, we have to do that once together. I already did some fire walking, some in England, I think in the UK, but we have to do it together next time. He's a spiritual therapist, a keynote speaker, motivational and inspirational speaker. He's a personality development and interview skills professional, management professional, content developer. I mean, he is, like we always say in humanology, an integral, complete human being who does a bit of everything. The topic he's going to be addressing today is human beings, integral beings. We're going to be talking about human beings as integral beings. And I am really, really thrilled to listen to your presentation. Aalok, welcome, and the floor is all yours.
Thank you so much, Jessica, for the kind words. The other speakers, great knowing you guys once you were introduced, and I'm looking forward to a very wonderful session of sharing and understanding what all is happening in your heads so that we can share it out to the masses. In gratitude to this particular forum wherein I've got this time. I would start with a personal example when we speak about the topic of the day. Uh, Human beings are integral beings. I'm afraid I have a question whether we are actually humans. Are we beings as of now? And if I want to add one more word to the human beings, I would say, are we humane humans anymore? What to talk about integration and integral? So on the personal side, when I started my career, the new career about human behaviors through psychology, being an international master trainer, the aspects of intuitive and predictive sciences came my way. Now, what is intuitive and predictive sciences? In simple language, your pineal has to grow. It's not only about your crown. It's not about your throat alone. I'm talking of the upper three. And I'm not yet talking about what is beyond you, that is the antennas. So when this aspect of intuitive and predictive sciences came my way, I gave it a thought. And I said, yes, because the tarot, because the numerology, because the Lenormand cards, because the runes, because the crystal ball, because the angel cards, because the coffee cup reading is all about energies, then why not? So that flip side was my integration to become a human being first, to tackle the human beings around me. Everybody has a journey of his or her own. The opportunities come towards you, and suddenly you find yourself either sucked in, and you go deeper and deeper into it, and then you rise. Because once the manthan is done, the lighter energy starts moving to the top, and the denser energy starts sitting down. So when I speak about this topic today, the content is going to come to you from old period, which is a forgotten period. Number of authors have been taken account of, and of course, I have added a bit of pepper and salt and some other masalas so that we can understand how to be a human being first and then be integrated, be an integral part of the existence. I'm using a huge word, existence. I will now move on and share the slides. This is purely for our listeners as well, so that there is some takeaway for them and they are able to understand that part of certain words or themes which are being used here. I hope my slides are clear. The viewers can just see it. Vani, in case you can say a yes. All right, thank you. All right. Well, I'm going to talk about this integral human being. What exactly is an integral human being? Well, I would say a more human human. Now, you might turn around and ask me, what is this more human human? So I will cite an example of gunas, or the qualities that we all have, like the sattva, rajo, or tamo. So you could be sato sato tamo, you could be sato rajo tamo. So you can be a combination. So here we are talking about integral human being, to be a more human human. The second word I have already used, the humane human. I might bring this word humane from humanity, the short form, bringing it to humane. Are we that humane human, or we are just a human? We have to check, but that is what integration or integral part of human being is all about. A human who promotes the good of a whole person and of every person. And yet, we generally talk about our own selves. Do we see us in others? Do we see others in us? Is a question where I spoke of the existence. Friends, this integral human being treats all existence alike, like himself or herself. Assertive communication is an example. You want to be spoken to in your manner, so you need to speak to the other as well in their manner. My question to you is, do you know others? Do you know others that well? So herein, my next question and a sarcasm on integral human being is, where do you find such a person? You will have to look in the mirror and into your own eyes and actually ask yourself, are you that kind of a person? Well, the answer you get, please share it with me too, so that sometime I also can get an experiential knowledge as to what exactly is the answer that you get when you see yourself in the mirror. Friends, you will find this person deep inside each one of us. We have lost him or her somewhere. Why have we lost him or her? What is it that has made this person be much away from us? In fact, much away from himself or herself. Well, I get a lot of answers where people say, oh, the environment is like that. The situation and the situations are like that. And people are like that. So I tell all of these individuals who speak, I tell them, no, that is not true. He or she himself and herself is responsible for being lost. But who takes the onus of being responsible? Rather, I would use the word accountable. We have slowly forgotten the definition of accountable because it hurts. So we are sticking ourselves to responsibilities. I need to ask my viewers to go beyond responsible and be accountable. No one else. It's you who is responsible for your own defeat, for your own present circumstances. How do we find him or her, this person who is lost? As an integral being, he or she has to do something. But before doing something, this person has to think differently. And friends, doing comes easier than thinking because you do not know what you are thinking. You know the old saying where it is said that may God forgive him because he does not know what he is doing. I would just add, for he does not know what he is thinking. Because nobody taught us to think. Everybody taught us to read. Everybody taught us to write. Everybody gave us the clues to a declamation or a poetry contest. But did someone teach us how to think? In fact, I'll change the question. Did someone teach us why to think what we think? He or she has to do something on their own. Through what? The right guides, the right mentors, the right books. And I'm so happy when I'm addressing the viewers here on such a wonderful forum, which speaks about human evolution through books. Because for me, that is one of the key paths. In Hindi, we have a beautiful saying. I will translate it into English, very simple English. Himmate marda madda de khuda. Khuda helps those who help first themselves. And that is the English connotation. He helps those who help themselves. I feel the integral human being who wants to be a humane human needs to come back to this aspect. Friends, I'm going to share with you a few sixes. The first 6 here is a G6. Very simply put across, have the grace of nature. Nature, you have it around you. Water, air. We have gratitude, we have generosity, we have groundedness, we have growth, we have being a giver. Now, how do we revive this guy? You have to be an aware person. You have to be a witnesser of your thoughts. You have to imbibe the right knowledge, have a great understanding, a great realization, and develop spiritual wisdom. And be a firm believer. Friends, I'm going to close this part here and share with you the conclusion of what I have to say. You can be integrated to the existence only when you are integrated with your own self first. So start searching for that self in you. You're gonna be a wonderful guy to be an integral human being. So kind. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Aalok. I really loved your presentation because it really matches part of what we teach in humanology, which is that in order to really do anything as human beings, we first need to know and understand who we are. And it all begins by that. Without knowing who we are, how are we going to take control of our lives and our reality? Thank you very much, Aalok. Javeria, I think you have to introduce our next fantastic speaker of the day.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Aalok, for this perspective that we need ourselves actually to find ourselves, and we should not blame all the time the situation and the circumstances. Somehow, the corona has its own blessings that we are connecting through because of corona, So every situation has its own benefits and reasons. Okay, so now I want to invite our next honorable guest. And before I invite her, I just want to share her profile with you guys. Our second guest speaker is Ms. Vani Bhalla Pahwa. I hope that I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Vani. She is the founder of Body in Motion. Vani is a rare combination of a wellness entrepreneur, medical fitness specialist, corporate wellness solutionist, movement and rehab specialist, Indian classical dancer. Wow, this is really interesting. And columnist and speaker. So Vani, the next 10 minutes stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Javeria, and thank you so much, Jessica, for this wonderful opportunity. Now, given the brief profile, I'm just going to extrapolate on what Aalok just said. Of course, when we talk about humanology, first things first, when this topic came my way, I had certain ideas. I grew up with a certain concept of being a human being. And my understanding of the term humanology, of course, comes as a net result of my experiences. But I still wanted to read up and see what is it that the world defines as humanology, because Jessica also runs an institute called the International Institute of Humanology. And I wanted to be cued in, and I realized that it is pretty much what I have been living and what I have been imbibing and how I have been imparting whatever little that I'm able to impart to people around me. And that made it actually so much easier, because even though human beings are some of the most complex beings, one of, I think, God's most complex creatures on earth, there comes the reason to understand what do we mean by being integral. When I wanted to look up and understand in depth, there are certain definitions. We follow definitions, we adapt definitions as per our own experiences. But I again wanted to go back to the dictionary to verify what does the dictionary say about the word integral. And lo and behold, it is what we live. It defines integral as something very fundamental, something very important, something that makes one part work cohesively in symphony with the other parts to complete the whole, W-H-O-L-E. And that is what being an integral being as a human being means, because like I said, I want to extrapolate on what Aalok said. Now, I come from the field of science as well as art. And my take is going to be borrowed from learnings from both. When I talk about science, when I talk about wellness, we have something called, fundamental pillars of wellness, well-being. Now, the wellness or the well-being, if you were to look at that word, is actually a conjunction of two words, well and being. So you first need to understand, like what Aalok said, what is the being? If I'm the being, who am I that being? And once I understand what this being is, in other words, who I am, I'm able to take the next step and understand how do I feel well about myself and how do I look after my well-being. Coming back to the tenets or the pillars of wellness, of course, it is very well recognized that human beings survive are made up of physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. This is what has been traditionally thought. But because we live in a very modern and we also live in a very complex world, by virtue of the fact that we ourselves are complex beings, and that is why we made the world around us so complex, the financial, the social, and the occupational elements have also been added to the pillars that go into defining what is it that makes our well-being. Now, naturally, if there are so many pillars that are holding up the roof or the floor of our being, it is only common sense, it is only natural that all these pillars need to work in cohesion. Now, if you are from the corporate background, the corporates like to use a lot of language like verticals, because I deal also with corporates. These are verticals, but these verticals cannot be addressed vertically. We need to build them up, but there is also a horizontal approach because our body has a huge bearing on the mind. We totally appreciate, we totally talk about the mind having a bearing on the body. But my experience with myself, my experience with my patients over the last 50 odd years has been, it is not a linear relationship we talk about when we talk about these pillars of wellness. So naturally, when we're talking about a non-linear relationship, automatically it becomes a very integral approach. It's like Jenga. If you've played the game of Jenga, you have those little pieces together. What do we do as human beings without even realizing it? We keep taking out pieces from that balance that makes us consolidated human beings. And one fine day, something that we have pulled out causes the crash to happen. What is it that we pulled out? It could be any pillar. It could be a physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, occupational, financial, or social doing. One facet of our life will never really impact just one facet of ourselves as human beings. I'll give you an example. The body is considered to be a tool. They say that the body is a temple of the mind. That's a very profound statement. We talk so much about the profundity of the mind, yet we relegate the body as being something very inconsequential. If it was something so inconsequential, we would not have been blessed with such a complex machinery. And like I said, the body has the ability to impact the mind. Now, if you're unwell, what happens when you're unwell? You may have everything else in life, but if you're operating from a place of pain, you're operating from a place of disease, your mind becomes pained, your mind becomes diseased, right? You may have all the riches in the world. And again, there's a very common adage that goes, health is wealth. We're talking about the financial pillar, yet watch what happens. Your body, your physical health becomes your wealth because it ties into your mental pillar. And because it is tying into your mental pillar, your emotions get impacted along the way, isn't it? Now, let me give you a converse scenario. I am an athlete, I'm a runner. We have something called a wall that we hit or experience. If you are an endurance athlete in any way, you do realize and appreciate that your body can only carry you up to a point. Beyond a point, the mind needs to take over. The mind needs to just keep telling the body, one more step, and you start breaking it down mentally. All right, just till the next crossing. All right, not just till the next red light. Just the next 50 meters. You start with 250 meters, and by the end, you're telling yourself, 5 more meters, girl, 5 more meters. Just keep pounding right, left, and you will get there. So see how beautifully the interconnection it is, so non-linear. Now, let me talk about the other facets of our being. We talk about spirituality. Okay, this may hurt a few people, but my personal experience has been that unless you are a very balanced and an evolved person, many people only hit spirituality when the other pillars come crumbling. Very few people will go and replenish spirituality for the sake of the power of spirituality. It is always an asking, whatever faith you may be, whether you believe in the universe or whether you believe in Gita, Allah, whatever. Isn't it a common thing? It's only when you're driven against a wall, even when the books literally come crumbling down from the shelf. You have this system of bartering with your spiritual force. Get me through this, and I promise that I'm going to be doing this I'm going to be reciting my Hanuman Chalisa, or I promise I'll be a good person going forward and I'm going to become a better human being. So spirituality is, I'm not going to delve there, but spirituality also is to a huge extent for the ordinary person tied into the physical, the mental, and the emotional, and yes, even financial. Many people turn spiritual when they face financial difficulties in life. Everything that I'm giving you examples of points to the fact that a human being is an integral being. Being integral is not alternate. Because I come again from the field of rehab. I deal with cancer patients, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's. I hear this huge thing, and also because I do weight training, also do yoga, I keep hearing that it is alternate science, it is alternate treatment. I've always tried to bring that down. In my mind, there is no such thing as alternate. Being holistic cannot be alternate. How on earth did we ever afford ourselves this choice that I can seek holistic or holism as an alternate choice? It is the only choice out of which we need to operate. It's only when we move away from this reality, when we move away from this truth, that everything comes crumbling down. So if I were to talk about yoga, yes, it's a very, very mindful discipline. I take the same learnings of that discipline and I use it with my weights. I use it with my running. I'm a classical dancer. I'm a dancer of Mohiniyattam. For those of you who've ever watched a Mohiniyattam performance, you might feel that it is a child's play. It looks exceptionally easy because it is exceptionally graceful. But let me tell you something. Grace and lack of, jerkiness requires more control than something which requires you to pound with force up and down. Try it for yourself. It is so much easier to jump in sharp, abrupt movements than it is to create a wave. Easier to sketch a line with a ruler than to draw a perfect wave. But my classical style is such that it demands that we are constantly moving through multiple planes. And do you realize how much effort it takes for the audience to feel that this is so effortless? Why is it even called a classical style? Integral. And because it is such a graceful style, it really requires my mind to be tuned out to whatever it was that had disrupted my peace earlier. Because if my mind does not flow, it blocks my body. It doesn't allow my body to flow. And that's such a beautiful thing about this classical style. And again, the mind, body, the non-linear connection. Now, coming back to a couple of examples that I want to give you, why I feel very strongly about the use of this word alternate and why it should be holistic, particularly because I deal with people who have very debilitating conditions. So if you've had cancer, or you know anybody in your family who's had cancer, you realize it's a deafening sentence. It's a frightening sentence. Our responses just to be the big C word itself takes the earth away from under our feet. So there's a whole lot of mind acting there. Yet, when I need to work on the physical plane of a person who's suffering from this disease, I need to break down their mental barriers one by one. Like Aalok said, I need to have them reconnect with themselves. But what am I having them reconnect on the inside? I'm having them reconnect with the power of their body for the time being, as frivolous as it sounds, because that is what has been taken away from them. It is only what gets fractured most in our lives. It is only what that gets dented the most in our lives is where our focus goes and gets stuck. So you need to talk that language to the mind. Talking abstract, me telling somebody to buckle up, you've got it. It's all in the mind. It's crap for them. They don't have it in the mind because their body is pulling them down. The mind is stuck in the body. We are all cells. We are all bundles of energy. And when this energy gets disrupted, you need to talk to the energy particles. Now, it doesn't matter where the energy particles are situated, whether they're in the mind, whether they're in the soul, or whether in the body. My basic premise is I need to get this energy going. I need to get these magnetic radiations or whatever it is all working together. Two people, I'd like to give you personal examples and live examples, not a presentation. Meet one of my clients. He's a professor, an English professor in Delhi, and Parkinson's stage 4. You'll be shocked if you see him. If I were to see him as a stage 4 Parkinson's disease, and I see a few others, you'd think I'm lying that he has stage 4. He was on his deathbed because his father, grandfather, great-grandfather had Parkinson's, and he really was at his wit's end. Something about the power of the body and the power of mind that I wrote in the Hindu newspaper in an article resonated with him. He turned it around, and today this gentleman, Parkinson's disease, they have on and off phases, and I won't take much time here. On is when you're literally on with your movements. Off is when you cannot even move. When he's off, he shuffles, he loses his balance, he cannot get up. When he's on, guess what this gentleman now does? Because he's harnessing the power of his body, mind, and his emotions. He runs, he plays squash, he skates, he swims, he challenges people in golf. It's mind-blowing what he can do. Meet another patient. She's a young girl. She has Parkinson's. She's a budding teenager. Whole new challenge altogether. She's also at that stage, where hormones are picking up. And yes, there's this whole concern about, will I be attractive? Will people find me attractive or not attractive? It's so much more challenging to deal with somebody there who's so much younger. And I would have thought that dealing with somebody younger is so much easier because they have very less to go by in terms of experience. But sometimes having less experience is as dangerous as having too much experience. Again, an integral human being. It's what you put together of all your pillars. It's what you find that is missing that needs to come together. So to me, this whole concept of integral human development and a human being as an integral being means it refers to your potentiality as a man and a woman, your potentiality as a human being. And whatever is sucking away or taking away from that potentiality needs to be plugged in. And that is a very integral process. It is made up of multiple small parts, but it's an integral process. You are an integral being. It requires an integral process. So then how is wellness not an integral take? How is it alternate? You tell me. That's the only way we are. Even as you and I talk, some of you will have a certain response. Some of you will agree to what I'm saying. Some of you will say, what a whole truckload of crap. Again, that is your response to what is being put out to you. That's your integral being. This is my integral being. We all passively and actively, we live our lives. We are action, we are reaction. And between the action, reaction, the passive and the active is where the being gets lodged, is where the flow of the being stops. So you need to figure out which is the element or elements that are not flowing for you right now, because you are an integral being. Take it. Even if you may be dented with a disease, even though you may be incapacitated, you carry that power within you. Your human being is considered at the top of the evolutionary chain. Like I said, human beings, the human body is hugely complex. The human mind is so complex. It just runs off at a tangent. But also the beautiful thing about the mind is that when you don't like something, you can always shut it down. When the body doesn't like what's being done to it, when there are excesses, the body shuts down. So also the other factor about being integral, and this will be my last statement for today, is simplicity. Simplicity of thought, simplicity of action, simplicity of seeking, and simplicity of expression is being integral. The more you complicate stuff with jargon, the more you move away from your true essence. And that's the reason we've stopped being integral beings. We're talking big stuff here. We are not sweating the small stuff. And the small stuff is we stopped being integral or complete beings quite a while ago. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vani, for this very interesting presentation. What can I say? I was told by traditional medicine I would never walk again because my back was so damaged. And together with all those pillars, I put the effort in and I managed not only to walk, but also to dance and to live a pretty normal life. I'm a true example of what you just said. Yes.
Absolutely. Inspirational.
No, you are inspirational, Vani. We will have time, Aalok, I know you have a few comments. We will have time later on in the panel also to address everything that was said before. I would like to introduce our last but not least of the speakers today. She is a very, very dear friend of mine and a member of our International Institute of Humanology because she trained with us as an optimism coach. She's also a holistic mind and body coach. In that sense, I think she somehow matches a little bit what Vani was saying. And she's the owner of her own coaching business here in Switzerland. Although she was born in Germany, she currently lives in the French-speaking part of Switzerland. And as a printing engineer, she worked for more than 20 years in the corporate world in different countries. For many years, she was a partner and CEO in one of the top printing groups in the south of Germany. And she's also a yoga and Pilates teacher and mother of 4 children. She, as I said, is an optimism coach certified by us, and she combines everything she knows, everything she does into her own personal practice. And I'm sure she has a lot to say about human beings, integral beings. Alexandra, Philipona, welcome. The floor is all yours.
Thank you, Jessica. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to share my screen with you. And just a few clicks before I start. Now, yeah, as Jessica already said, I want to talk about holistic mind-body coaching. It's a coaching I have developed, and it is absolutely about integral being. When I started to become a coach, I learned the ICF way from the International Coaching Federation, a very high standard quality coaching. Yeah, I've learned there, but it was in the mind. And we did a little bit with visualizations and things like that. So I felt already there is something going on there, and there is more than just the mind. And I got even very confused because sometimes for me it was kind of a cloud around the people, and I couldn't say what it is. And I got very upset with this cloud, and till I've learned it's the energy, and that I have this capability to pick up on the energy very well. So what I've learned really to look at the mind, at the soul, the essence of the people and the body. And how do I use this in my coaching? I have, as Jessica said, I'm a yoga teacher as well, Pilates teacher. So I have this connection to my body and also to the energy. I learned a lot from traditional Chinese medicine, which goes a little bit hand in hand with yoga as well, because you have the meridians, you have the idea of the different energy points in the body. And I was very lucky that for 5 years, I learned Thai massage. So really it's going into the body, also working with the meridians by massaging the meridians, liberating the energy. And then I also learned Reiki. So I'm the Japanese energy healing way. So I even could develop more how I can help my clients with the energy. And for me, this was, it's very interesting how life is sometimes, because as Jessica said, I'm an engineer. So I kind of forgot about all this energy work and all this, which my mom used to do. And I only used it for my children. And I never thought that I would use it to work. I think I was afraid that people would think I'm a witch or something like this when I'm using it. And when I became a coach, I wanted to work with people who came from burnout or just wanted to really change something in their life. And then other trainers and coaches, they've told me I would never, ever earn any money with that. And so I tried to go into corporate coaching and all this, and I felt something is missing. And when I was very lucky, it's sometimes just the people you need, they are coming when you need them into your life. And then one brilliant coach, she developed a somatic coaching, she's calling it. and I did a meditation, a guided meditation with her. And in this meditation, where I was deep inside myself for an hour, I asked myself, what am I really? And it popped up a healer. And I was so shocked. I was for, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks, because I'm a professional coach and I'm an engineer. And I was the CEO of a big company for so many years. So I thought everybody, if I would say that, everybody would laugh about me and say, oh, now she's completely crazy. She thinks she's a healer. And I was walking around with this thought. And it was so clear for me, you know, this is what I am. And then all of a sudden, I understood that's why I've learned yoga. That's why I learned the traditional Chinese medicine. That's why I had this beautiful chance in my life to learn the Thai massage and the Reiki and the coaching. And then I thought, okay, how am I going to use this? And what I'm doing now is I'm addressing of course, the thinking of the people with the coaching, but in the same time, I am coaching the energy, and I help the client to go to the energy, go to the emotions. And sometimes, if required, I'm also giving Thai massage if people can come to my place. Of course, that's the only thing I can't do online is the massage. The rest, everything I can do also in the online coaching. And it comes together. So for example, when I'm having a client, very often they come to me, and when we start talking, I see they're cut here at the head with their energy. The energy is there in the head, no connection to the body. Even already here, the throat chakra closed. Everything is blocked. And what do? I help them. I put them into yoga postures. For example, the butterfly posture, but with a lot of cushions and things to help them so they can feel very comfortable when they are seated. And I help them to relax. I help them to reconnect with the body, with the energy. And then I ask them in a coaching way, of course, always, what is the outcome you want to have? And then what do you feel? And then all of a sudden, they start to reconnect. And I use the Reiki energy to help their energy to start moving again. And it's amazing. It's really, sometimes I feel like a witch. It is because it's magic. What is happening, it's really magic. And then all of a sudden, like disturbed energy, can be transformed in healthy energy. Or they can let go of things which they didn't want to, they have carried since the childhood with them. And we are not talking about the problems. And this is the beauty of this kind of coaching, because the people, they don't have to talk about their trauma. They don't have to talk about the horrible husband or, the father they had who was beating them. We are only talking about the energy. We are talking about the heart. I ask them, how does your heart look like? And then they see it's hard. There is a huge wall, or it's gray, or it's even black, the heart, or whatever. And then I help them to put themselves into the heart. Sometimes this takes a long time because they have closed down so much that they don't have themselves in their heart anymore. And that's very often when it becomes so emotional that they start crying. But it is really such a beautiful moment, when we open up the heart, make it softer. So sometimes they want to bring all the family members in their heart again, because they're all outside, all close out. And we do this work, and as you see, we are not talking about the problem. We are just about colors, temperature, what they need to feel happy. Very often I let them ask the energy. I ask the heart, for example, ask your heart, what does it need from you to open up? And then the heart speaks to them. And it is so crazy. Very often I have people, because I'm in the Western part. So I think for people from India, it's easier to understand what is going on because you have this beautiful culture of yoga in your life. That's also where I've learned it. So, and I always admired this completeness, which we don't have in the West. But even here, people, they tell me like, you know what, it's so crazy. It speaks to me. And I say, yes, it's working. And or we do this also. It depends now what it is. Is it about self-love, self-esteem? Then it's the heart. If it's anger, it's the liver. So it really depends what emotion they want to work on, and we find it. Or we can also the connection to the mother through the left side of the body and the kidney and other side. So I'm really working on all this. And it's just, I think it's amazing and it's great. And what really the distance the person gets to the problem, because they are not talking about the problem anymore, but about the just the energy. And when they have finished the session, they leave with a lightness or whatever they wanted to have. They are much more reconnected to the body. And I can really see it, and feel it. You see it when you look at somebody, who is connected in the energy with the body. It is a complete different being. It's an integral being after the coaching session. And this is what I want. I could go on for hours and hours to talk about it, to explain more about it. But I am at the end of my short presentation of my holistic mind body coaching. So thank you very much for listening. And I'm stopping here. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. Yes, I also started yoga from last 15 and 20 days, and I found exceptionally difference in my life. And as Vani mentioned, that our body comprises of different pillars. And the most important pillar, which really disturbs us, is a social pillar. Some of your family or your friend, if it's, it's not working, then somehow we lost our emotions and our internal power to absorb everything. And also my mother died 4 months before in a cancer, and I observed her that her mind was not coherent with her body, but she accepted that, okay, this now I had cancer and now I have to die. And this trauma actually affected her more rather than because she refused to take medicines and everything. So I think our mind directs our body, and our mind should be clear, focused. And somehow I felt that multitasking is good. Many people would say that, but sometimes multitasking makes you more, disturbed. I just want to take answer a comment from everybody during this our discussion panel. Do you think multitasking is good? Because I found that for me, I'm a multitasker, but somehow it really, really disturbs my mind, my body, and everything. So, Jessica, with your permission, can we start the discussion panel?
Of course, we can start the discussion panel. I'm really, really, really looking forward to having everybody's answers. I'm sure we're going to learn a lot from all our experts. As you could all see, they really know what they're talking about. So I'm sure they will have a lot to share together with the questions that we may get from the audience. A brief comment: if you're watching us, you can write your questions or you can send us your questions and we will transmit them onto our panel. later on. So, ladies and gentlemen, get ready. The first question for today's panel says, humanology approaches human beings as integral beings. It's one of the basic parts of the discipline. We believe that human beings should be studied and explained as complex, multifaceted beings. We also believe that science and arts both play important roles in working with human beings. Do you agree? I think everybody already answered that part of the question, but what balance do you think both fields should have? So why don't we go with Vani first? Vani, what's your take on this? You gave us a very clear explanation on how the human being is, of course, very integral. But if we put those two aspects, arts and science, or maybe, the 4 or the 8 pillars that you mentioned before together, what do you think should be the right balance?
Okay, so there are actually 3 questions rolled into one, and let me see if I can do justice to them. I'm going to speak about first something which is very close to my heart, and also because something which has shaped my thought process, art versus science, because I come from both the fields and I straddle both the fields. Both of them are important, yes. Scientific field operates with certain constructs by virtue of what it needs to do. It needs to work with empirical data. There cannot be guesswork because of what science needs to deliver. So yes, science is important to that extent because everything in life cannot be abstract. When we get delved too much into abstractism, we lose touch with ourselves. And we also lose something called authenticity, which I observe a lot. So science has its role. Art, on the other hand, is what I spoke about. Art allows you to flow. Art really has no constructs. It's only the constructs in the mind of the critics. Critics who may not understand, who may not appreciate, who may not like what you do. But art is without boundaries. And if I were to look at dance, it's such a beautiful mixture of both science and art. I'm flowing on stage, but I'm not flowing mindlessly. I can't just flow any which way I want to. I have a very scientific musical system of ragas and talas to which I'm performing. And within that very scientific construct of Indian classical music system, which has such complex beats to it, I'm flowing. My flowing is the art. The music and the choreography is the science. So yes, both are needed. What is more important really is totally depends upon the individual, and it also depends upon what stage of life do you find yourself in. The answer will never be a standard one. Some people revel in knowing very concise answers, abstract answers or obtuse answers unsettle them. And if that unsettles their mental or emotional state, all right, who are we to judge? There are others who just cannot comprehend a life of constructs and always want to flow. Beautiful. But then if you flow without reason all the time, a river versus a hurricane, you know what happens there. So both. And as you evolve in life, as your choices, as your experiences evolve in life, you seek different things from yourself. You want a different you. There's something that you've tried all your life. You've been a go-getter. You want to settle down in some thought process, some emotion. So the art and science is going to play its role on where you are in life. What is it that you're seeking? And which of the two is going to give you the answer? Both will, but the balance will always be. There is no such thing as a static balance, ever, with anything in life. Our seeking of balance also changes with life. And like I said earlier, and I'll borrow that phrase, balance essentially comes from what is fractured within us. What is dented within us? What do we need to fix? Once we fix that, whatever balance, whatever equilibrium, it could be from any facet of our integral peak. So there, whether science fixes it for you or art fixes it for you, everything is okay. It's okay. We are integral human beings, so we really cannot have a scientific yes and no to that. I will always say science or I will always say art. So that's my take on it, Jessica.
Thank you so much, Vani. Let's see what Aalok has to say about this. Aalok, what would you like to say?
All right. As Vani brought out, I am a chemistry graduate. I am a BTech in civil. engineering. I'm a master's in highways and a B school. And I'm connected to the humans. Let me tell you, logic and reasoning has a place in our lives. But I would be very forthright in saying that it is the art which takes an art from you to reach the status of digging deeper into a human. If the humanology is speaking about arts and science, I would dare, even Einstein in very recent times, he has spoken of his theories of relativity, where he talks about a particle, where it came down to be as a God's particle. And now they are thinking that if you have a minus and a positive side of everything, an electron or a proton, and if everything was in a balance, then how come there was creation? That means everything would have been nullified. So creation and such a huge symmetrically existing creation that the planets don't hit against each other. So I would say that, and I would give one more analogy here. You have 0 to 9 numbers. I would divide these numbers which talk about science and art. A number 3 person is a creative guy. A number 2 person would not be as creative as a number 3 guy. It is about the vibration. The vibration from a cauldron of water, a bowl having water, but it is the height and the width of the bowl, which when resonated is science, but the effect which it has on the person is an art. So when we talk about both, I would give an upper hand to art. You listen to my videos when I was 10 years, 12 years, 13 years into learning, you would say this guy needs to be thrown out. And today, sometimes I wonder at myself that I'm speaking to people with the art which has been developed inside of you to read people. Through sciences, you cannot. That is where I would say that art takes an upper hand over science.
Thank you very much, Aalok, for that perspective. Alexandra, please, what would you like to express and add?
Yeah, for me, of course, I mean, science was always a big part in my life. I mean, I became an engineer. I loved math and I loved all the things that were happening and all the logic, especially the logic behind all this. But I also, I'm painting, I'm a dancer as well. And so all this, just this thriving, this flow you feel when you're doing the arts. And I think it's both very necessary in our life and very helpful. So science, the logic, for me, for instance, is very helpful when it comes to understanding which organ, do I have to address when I want to work on a meridian or on a problem, on an emotion somebody has. And I think this is really my brain, that's the logic. So it's very easy for me to find these combinations. But then when I'm massaging the meridian or I'm working with the Reiki, this is the art coming in because it's not the logic. It's like my hands are seeing. And I think that's really art. It's like when you are dancing, what Vani said before. No, this is the flow, but it's the brain which gets the rhythm also and the whole picture of everything. And then you flow in the art with the body. And I think this is the right balance you need. And sometimes it is good if you are a little bit more rational, because it helps you in a situation. And the other moment, it is good when you just feel what is going on. And I think what is really important today, I'm again speaking of the Western part of this world, they forgot to see with the hands and to move and to thrive. And that's the big problem we are facing. But if you have both and you play with it, and you accept it, that you have it within you, then it's a beautiful balance we are having.
Thank you so much. Yes, art has its own language, if even kids use it as their first tool to express themselves. Sometimes if your kids are not behaving properly, then you can look up to their, drawing pad. Sometimes they draw what they are feeling at some point. My daughter used to do that. She when she's not speaking so much, she's drawing and just sticking on the fridge with the magnet, that this is how I'm feeling. So I think, yes, I'm also an engineer. I like numbers and everything, but I guess in every school, in a kindergarten, we start from art. Science comes after that. So thank you so much for these amazing answers of this question. Now moving over second question, and it's related to the pillars as mentioned by Vani. That do you believe that every aspect of the human being, physical, intellectual, spiritual, and emotional, play as important a role in us, or do you think one of them is more important, and why? And I want to add one additional pillars mentioned by Vani: the occupational and the financial. So
That's right.
starting from Vani.
So, like I mentioned, that these are different pillars, and each of these pillars has the power and the potential to not only elicit a response in one pillar, but in certain other subset pillars as well. Now, what is more important? Again, this is a very, very personal example for me. If you're somebody who is struggling with the body, then yes, you have to work both on the body as well as the mind. And if you're somebody who is blessed with a good body, do not have anything which is really pulling you down, you have the ability, you're blessed to pay more attention to the mind. But then is the mind more important than the body? To me, this question is more like, what comes, putting the horse before the cart, or the cart before the horse, or what came first, the chicken or the egg? The point is, at the end of the day, we are creation. And this is a very dynamic creation. We are dynamic beings. And if you're talking about energy, everything about us is an oscillation. So what becomes important at a point of time is very much cued into the station we find ourselves in life. And that is one thing that I've learned about life is when you talk about fixating on the power of one pillar over other, it is very limiting. You have to accept that these pillars are constantly in a state of flux. So the importance of each pillar will become very different at different stages in life. It can even become different during different hours of the day. You begin a day feeling in a certain way. By midday, you feel a certain way. At night, you're a totally different person. So as a part of being an integral human being, that's one thing I very consciously avoid. And that's my personal choice. I don't want to be dictated by, what should you say, a seesaw, or I don't want to be dictated by my own beliefs that A, B, C, or X, Y, Z is more important. I want to leave that little bit open because I want to listen to my mind. I want to listen to my body. So whatever needs more attention at that point of time becomes more important for me. It may not be for you, but what I observe about myself and what I observe with the people that I work with, I find flexibility in thought, flexibility in approach is the right way to look at it. We need to be agile. We need to be flexible. So for me, there's really no black and white with this answer. It's each how you interpret it and how comfortable you are with yourself, with your own pillars. It's your own individual journey. So how can I dictate an answer to be that only the mind rules or only the body rules?
Yeah, it changes phase by phase what you're dealing with day-to-day situations. Yes. Yes, Aalok, what's your take on this?
I'll flow. I want to start this part of the discussion with a question. Priorities or decision making. How does it come to us? Which of the 5 or 6 which I would speak the words now is important to reach a decision? What to do, when to do, how to do, where to do, or why to do. There is this principle which we speak about in our coachings, in our trainings, the 5 why principle. I would like to add one more aspect. Vani did speak about thinking, and so did Alexandra. We all speak about thinking. But due to the experience which perhaps has come my way, that opportunity of experience, I further divided the thought into two culprits. Every thought has got two subparts. The first part is the intent of the thinking. The reason of that thought, not reasoning behind the thought, the reason of the thought per se. And the second subpart is called emotion, because emotion is scientifically proved, medically proved, that it accompanies every thinking. Now I'll come to the answer of the 7 pillars vis-a-vis, is there one which is important? When you are kneading the dough, now the machines are doing it, but when you used to do it, or we used to do it with our own hands, you mixed everything into that dough before you made roti or you made whatever with that. Now that is a wholesome part which becomes a product when you put it on fire, right? Hot stove or hot oven. Point that I'm trying to make here is you have got a lot of quotients. The IQ, the EQ, the trust quotient, the technical quotient, the happiness quotient, the stress quotient, the noble quotient, the godly quotient. I'll add 2 more and then finally 1 more. The cultural quotient and the BQ, that is the bias quotient. Oh my God, so much of confusion. But to me, when it comes all of them together, when I put them in the same basket, which is the SQ, the spiritual quotient, it covers all other quotients. The only trouble as I look at things for spiritual quotient is the non-understanding of this word spirituality. Universal Energies, by end of July, when I print both my 2 other books after the first, which was published 6 years back, I'm quite sure that spirituality would be made so easy for a common man to understand. And 125 videos to support. Whether it is a topic of parent-child relationship or lovers and spouses, when you talk about spirituality in them, I would take the cake and say, spiritual quotient leads for me, and others, they follow. This is how I look at spiritual quotient taking them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Aalok. Alexandra, what do you want to say?
For me, it's about the balance or the harmony of all of them. And the problem, what I see very often in my everyday practice with my clients, is that they forgot about one of these aspects, like the emotions, for example, because they have learned so much not to show their emotions that they say they don't feel the emotions anymore. I mean, I have clients, they come to me and they are convinced they can't feel hatred anymore. And yeah, because they have unlearned it when they were young. Because we are having here in Switzerland a culture where you need to be nice, you stay nice, you don't show what you feel. And then they are convinced they don't feel it anymore. So they can't have this balance. And at some stage in their life, it's really difficult for them. It becomes very difficult. Like when they have the first partner and the partner is not coming from the same background, or really things like this. And that's what I'm working on with them. It's to get back this connection, to understand what is anger, what is, love, they say, okay, it's easy. No, they know, or what happiness, it's easy. But even there, they don't see it in their life anymore. So it's really about this. And I think you can't really be spiritual if you don't have this background, because then it is I say it's kind of a spirituality, but it's not real because you're not in there with your whole body. So it's really, you have to get this balance back. And very often against our cultural and society background we are having. And only then you get the harmony, and that's what is really important from my point of view.
Yeah, and in my opinion, like we have so much overwhelmed with the responsibilities. Like for if I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a sister, I'm a daughter, and somehow I have forgotten there is Javeria, what I want for my life. Sometimes this creates a depression, a frustration, because many times I want to do many things for myself, but I'm not getting time. And when I lost myself, so and I'm not blaming again. I'm not blaming like okay, these of course, being in living in a society, I have to fulfill my responsibilities. But I think me time is very important. We have to give some time to ourselves, because if we will be content, we will be happier from ourselves. Then we keep other people happy and satisfied around ourselves. So thank you so much for elaborative answers for this question. Jessica, do we have any other question? I think we have a question.
Yeah, we have questions. We have questions. Not only the last question that I think all of our speakers have somehow addressed, but I'm going to insist with a little addition. But we're also starting to have questions from our audience that we will post right after this last question. So the question that we have ready for you is, what is your best recommendation to help people keep themselves balanced? We've been talking about balance one way or another throughout today's program all the time. But the question here is more practical, down to earth. What do you recommend people to actually do? What is your take on this? Aalok, what would you tell people to do?
As a mentor, you can give suggestions.
I'll give you three suggests for retaining the balance, which is the most needed by an empowered being. An empowered being is only when the guy is or the girl is balanced. The balance will come from two things which exist normally, naturally. One is the air and the other is the water. Based on two things, that is your elemental composition, which nobody would teach you, and by virtue of a scientific formulae based on your weight, there is a quantity of water that you have to drink in a day. I had to learn it very hard way. When somebody from South Africa asked me a bouncer and I could not answer the guy, I read books and went into a lot of stuff. So consumption of water to maintain your levels of 66% to 72% of water inside your body is one of the aspects to go into a state of balance. Number two is the air. Do you know that breathing has got a formula? Combining art with science. The formula is called 4-2-6-2. On a count of 4, you inhale. On a count of 2, you do nothing. Let what you have inhaled do its job, because it divides itself into 5 parts once it is inside. On a count of 6, now you exhale. Let the carbon dioxide which has been formed now go away from your body before you do a 2 seconds wait before the next inhalation. My dear friends, if I do a check now on my clients or my students or my audience, they would be breathing 16 to 18 times one inhalation and exhalation as cycle, 16 to 18 times a minute. You need to breathe a cycle, inhale and exhale with its pauses 4.5 times in 1 minute. And you have to breathe through your diaphragm, not your shoulders and your chest that we generally move. I'll come to the finale. Third aspect is thinking. Friends, you will have to do a thought therapy with your own self. You will have to discriminate between bad, good, and ugly thoughts. And you have to master your mind, because the thoughts are generated here. Because whatever role we are playing in, so simple 3 techniques of water therapy, breathing therapy, and thinking therapy will give you most of the balance for you to perform or outperform yourself.
Thank you so much, Aalok, for this very, very practical set of tools. Let's see, Vani, what would you like to add?
I'll just give you the simple mantra that I try and follow. Movement of body, stillness of mind. And everything that I do, any practice that I adopt needs to fall into this. And the third thing is reject excesses. When I say reject excess of anything, if you're talking about the body, of course you need to watch what you eat, because at the end of the day, your food reacts with the way you think, your food reacts with your emotions, your food, of course, reacts with your body itself. But you also need to watch what you eat in terms of influences. That could be just about anything. Toxic people, toxic relationships, too much consumption of social media. This generation is driven by social media. This generation, including some from my own generation, because they want to make it big. It's about impressions. Go for real stuff. Go for real life relationships. When you start valuing real life relationships, you will automatically start making adjustments, and whatever decision that you need to do to strike a balance within yourself and with the other person. And movement of body, yes, because movement is an answer to a lot of things. It releases toxins, not just physical, it releases blockages, mental, emotional blockages as well. And stillness of mind is one of the most difficult to do. Breathing practices like what Aalok said. There are many other simple practices. Whatever resonates with you. Start small, make it consistent. Small and consistent, and watch your complete diet. What goes inside your body, what goes inside your mind. I like to keep my life simple.
Thank you, Vani. I think we put everything together that we're learning today, and this is a very, very interesting session. Alexandra, give us your thoughts.
Look out for the word should, because always when you hear should, either in your thinking or outside, you know it's not what you want. You are not living according to your essential self. So for example, when you say, oh, I should go in the evening to see some friends because they have invited me. But that means, like, be careful, because this is not what you really want. Because otherwise you would say, oh, I am looking forward to go and see them. And then really decide, say, do I really need to go there? Or isn't it better for me to stay at home? Or also when other people are saying, you should or you have to do this, and you feel this crunchy feeling in your stomach, start to listen to your stomach. Stop listening to your mind, because only like this you can get this balance now of yourself, what you really need, what you really want. And I think the word should, this is like really so important and so easy to have it as a red flag. And then, as Aalok also now said, like, think of it, what has you thinking this? And then you will see there is the bias going on, there is social, like the society thinking you are having in your head. And this is all in the should. So that's one thing.
Thank you, Alexandra. So we only have a few minutes left, and we have 2 questions from the audience. The way things are going to operate now is a very simple one. We're going to ask you the questions, and whomever wants to answer the questions just raises the hand or takes the mic and answers them. So I'm just very quickly going to ask the first one. It says, do you think that people are happier today? Our ancestors didn't know all these things that the speakers are talking about, but they seem to be happy. Is the world happier today? Are we truly making progress? The floor is yours, guys.
Alexandra, very quickly, they knew. we just forgot. I think with the industrialization, we forgot so many things. And I think our ancestors, they knew, because the Greeks were talking about it, the old Egyptians, they knew it, the Maya, they knew it. In India, everybody knew it. So
anybody else would like to add anything?
I'll take this call. I have a question on the question, which individuals must understand. That question is, what is your definition of happiness? And what is your definition of progress? I will wrap up the second issue first. If progress is coming at the cost of humanity, I would not like to define it as progress. I'll come to the first part. Happiness in whatever form the audience is speaking about. I would take it further from happiness to the word harmony. And I would also like to touch upon this aspect that older generation knew everything about it, but today's people seem to be happy. Or you said, the question said, are happy. Well, I have a question mark. With two kids around at the age of 36 and 32, I understand their happinesses. With my nephew at the age of 42, I understand the happiness and of their kids also, the nephews, who's in the US. I've traveled the globe, virtually seen 8 or 9 countries. I would like to question my audience to really understand that you have to dig deeper into yourself before you start talking about that today people are happier. Are they seemingly happier, or it is a facade on them, or they are wearing a cloak of it? That you'll have to answer. Thank you.
Okay, we'll see if the person who posed the question answers or says something. In the meantime, Vani, do you want to add anything, or do we
need something? I totally agree, because that would have been my question as well. That, what is your definition of happiness? And Aalok summed it up very, very well. The only thing I think I would like to say is this question comes my way a lot, and particularly even from my grown-up kids. Your generation, this generation. I would just like to say that I think, this generation is perhaps more enabled. I'm not sure if it's happy or happier. The older generation was simpler, but I really can't say if they were happier. There was a little happiness in simplicity. There is a little bit of unhappiness with all that we've taken upon ourselves now. So happiness is ephemeral in any case by nature. There's a saying, you don't step into the same river twice. It's the same with your happiness, my dear friend. Today, what's making you happy may not necessarily make you happy tomorrow. And that's also the essence of desires. So yes, if we are coming across as happy, then I think Aalok and Alexandra and I are doing a very, very good job here.
Thank you, Vani. Javeria, I know there's more questions, right?
Yes, and actually, the thing is that we always want to be a perfect in everything. I would say, please don't go towards that I have to be perfect. This is the overburden, Okay, if you got fail or something, it's okay. I mean, you have life, prove yourself. So I think, and I always look up to the kids, sometimes a small chocolate can make them happy, So I think we should, and our next question actually related to this, that how to be simple in thinking. I mean, it's very, very good question. It's very short and sweet. A crispy question, I would say. How to be simple in thinking. I mean, so who wants to volunteer?
Okay, I'd like to take this very, very briefly. And this is also one of my recommendations of the book, and somebody asked me, why is this book making it to the list of for this today's topic? I don't have any heavy recommendations. And one of the reasons is because I decided to make my life easy. I read this book by Ayn Rand called Atlas Shrugged. And that topic, the title stuck with me. And now this is what I tell myself 50 times a day. And this is what I tell my overthinking kids. Atlas needs to shrug. The world really doesn't depend upon you. Only you depend upon yourself. So you once in a day, and it's a very literal and a figurative thing. you need to shrug many, many, many times a day, because the weight that you carry on your shoulders. And like I said earlier on also during this, I think it probably also comes with age. You really want to simplify. You want to simplify how you think, how you eat, how you feel. You want to keep it to the point. You don't want to necessarily sound smarter than you are, live smarter than you are beyond your means, or act smarter than you are. And that's pretty much the definition of authenticity. The minute you start connecting with yourself, you realize your needs are actually very, very little. And the more that you put on the cloaks, the globe becomes bigger. So Atlas needs to shrug. You need to shrug multiple times a day. That is what I do. And I hope it works for you.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's a perfect question. You want to say something, Alok? You want to add something?
I'll add one aspect of life about the question which speaks about how can you keep it simple. I'm going to give a small little word, but this is one of the key words. Least understood. Un or non-attachment. Moment you speak about happiness with attachment, oh, I love the shirt that I'm wearing today. Nobody can touch it. I want to wash it with my own hands. You start getting that happiness about how it looks on you. Does it really matter? How does it look on you for how long? 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, you'll get another one. You'll get one more thereafter. So a rich man is not he who has a lot of money. A rich man is he who has lesser needs, wants, and desires. What Vani said, keep it simple, dude. Chill. But that is not possible. I mean, it's plausible, but it's not possible. So we can think
Can I rephrase what you just said, Aalok? Because what the younger generation says, we say chill. The younger generation says, take a chill pill, mom. So you take a chill pill now and you relax.
When they will chill, we don't need to take a pills. But most of the time, they are disturbing us.
Thank you so much, everyone. We only have a couple of minutes left, and we don't want to finish today's event without your book recommendations. After all, this is Human Evolution Through Books. So I would like each of you to take the floor a little bit and just send us or share with us a couple of books that you would like to recommend people to read so they can focus on this topic that we addressed today. The list of titles will be shared on our social media afterwards, but we would like to hear from our experts today. So Alexandra, maybe because you were the last to take the floor, would you like to recommend one, maybe two books?
I have one book which I really like to find out more about the subtle body, and it's also called The Subtle Body. It's by Cindy Dale, and there you can really read about the different energy systems different cultures are using, and then you will see very fast that it all makes sense because it is all more or less about the same. A very interesting book. I really love it and I recommend it.
Thank you so much. Vani, you go next. Microphone, yes?
Yes, I'd sent a list of a couple of books, and they're not necessarily very academic in nature, but because I learned a lot from stories. I continue to learn from stories. They're the ones that actually strike at the heart of my emotions and have left an impact. Ayn Rand, I'm a huge impacted person by Ayn Rand, both Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged. It really taught me a way of thinking, and like I said, Atlas needs to shrug. The way, how to see yourself the way you truly are. It's a very beautiful book written by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And that is really at the heart of an integral human being, because the IHT model talks about a human being, addressing the complete whole being and everybody. And the Dalai Lama actually talks about our place as individuals in society and as nations. And yes, even a book like Alice in Wonderland, it's got some phenomenal quotes. If you remember the conversation between Alice and the cat, It says, which way does the road lead? And the cat asks, where do you want to go? And Alice says, I really don't know. And what was the cat's answer? Then it doesn't really matter where you're going. So even a book like Alice in Wonderland has left a huge impact on me. The rest of the books are with you, Jessica, if you could just put out those names later on.
We will for sure. Thank you, Vani. Aalok.
Jessica, I gone through a book which is Integral Human Development, and it talks about challenges to sustainability, if I can use the word survivability, and democracy. Although around the globe, not everybody follows democracy, but yet it is your sustainability and your survivability which has been beautifully theoretically constructed by the author. It talks about the economical growth, which is the key factor that is one of our 7 pillars. It speaks about technical innovation because technical innovation is changing the whole globe around, with the 6th industrial revolution around the corner, where you gonna be having machines next to the humans in the same office space. That's going to be a challenge. And it also speaks about implementation of social programs. It talks about political aspects. So I found that book to be quite wholesome when we started understanding something like integral human being. So that was quite a pull for me when I finished the book and came out with a lot of ideas given by the author.
Thank you so much. Aalok, we will just very quickly mention a couple of books that the Institute of Humanology is recommending. We're recommending Illusions by Richard Bach, which is a novel, like Vani mentioned, but quite deep and with many layers of understanding. We would also like to recommend You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay, and The Tree of Knowledge, The Biological Roots of Human Understanding by Umberto Marturana and Francisco Varela. And if you want to take any books written by one of us, you can take Coaching for You by myself, just to recommend something, within the whole group. Javeria, I give you the floor to close because we're already out of time.
Yes, I want to recommend one book from the Read Pakistan platform. This is Untethered Soul by Michael A. Singer. It's a quite very nice book. This book will transform your relationship with yourself and the world around you. So I believe that when you will be writing this book, you will be in a meditative, status. So I must recommend this book. Okay, so I think I thoroughly enjoyed the session, very relatable to the current situations right now. Even though COVID is over, everything is now back to the normal, but I think it's taking time to be a normal, or we are actually in between the new normal and the old normal, actually. But really, really, thank you so much, Jessica, for inviting such a wonderful people, integral human beings, I would say. And I thoroughly enjoyed the session. And thank you so much, all of you, Mr. Aalok, Ms. Vani, and Alexandra. And inshallah, hoping to see you again in our next sessions. So for time being, thank you so much. We are signing off from the Read Pakistan and the International Institute of Humanology and Human Evolution Through Book Season 2. See you again. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.